All right, Trysten, whenever you're ready.
Okay, so everybody can like kind of picture a favorite toy that they had like when they were a child, like, or maybe it wasn't your favorite, but like one that really stuck out to you and that like you'll always remember. Maybe it'll just like come up randomly like throughout your day, like, oh my god, I remember that toy. So like for me, mine were things like Polly Pockets and my baby dolls and things like that. But I also like to play with like Matchbox cars. But I noticed that the only time I ever played with the Matchbox cars was when I was with my brother and his friends. Like I never did that kind of thing on my own. So I looked into gender stereotypes and the way that it affects children's toys and went on the Disney website. And one of the first things that you notice is that for, like, when you look at toys, the tabs that show up, there's girls' toys and then there's boys' toys, but there's no, like, gender-neutral toys. And so one of the first things that we notice a difference in between girls' and boys' toys is the color. A study that was done shows that the color for boys' toys is mainly bold, bright, and, like, dominant colors, and, like, solid colors like black and red and orange. And then for girls, the toys are pastel colored and often like pink and purple and sometimes like light blue. And then also the style of toys was a lot different for the ones that were only on the boys page or only on the girls page. For the boys, it was toys like cars and action figures and things that they could manipulate and really like get into the character. And then for girls, it was more like Barbies and princess dolls and things like that, from like things that they could take care of. And so where kids like start to move away from gender stereotypes is with what would be considered gender neutral toys. And even though there's not a tab for that on the Disney website, there are toys that show up on both the boys page and the girls page. But in a study that was done, more often it is like gender neutral toys are colored the same or very similar to that of a boy's toy, and more the same style as well, other than when it comes to educational toys. And so because typically girls are more likely to cross over gender barriers and adapt to that than boys are. And so the words that they used was like, it's almost an attempt to not offend little boys and have them not want to play with the toys. Disney commercials also do this with their, with their movies. Like, technically all Disney movies are considered to be like for both genders. Like, no, everybody's allowed to watch them, but there's some that might appeal more to boys or to girls. And in their commercials, such as like a Cars commercial, and you can look it up. I put that in my paper. The link to it, it's like in all the Cars commercials, it's only boys that are playing with the toys that go along with those commercials. And then for princess movies, and pretty much every princess movie, with the dolls and the dresses and like the toys that go along with those movies, it's only girls in the commercials. And so they did a study on preschoolers to see how like this gender stereotyping was like learned and how it was perceived. And so they would hold up these toys and ask them to rate it on a scale of like 1 to 5, like how likely they would be to play with it. And it was seen that like when the toy was labeled either a girl or a boy toy, that gender was more like rated it higher, even if that was the incorrect label. They chose things based on like how they thought that their friends would choose it as well, or how they thought the opposite gender would rate it. So like if a boy would have rated it high, then the little girls would rate it low. And so and then they did it's the same study, but then they held up different toys with like different attractiveness, like brand new toys and then like older toys and things like that, and didn't add labels to it. And then the more attractive toys obviously got higher ratings and the less attractive ones got lower ratings. But when they put a direct label on it, even if it was like the beat up toys or the older ones, that gender would rate it higher because it went with what they thought was right. So these like gender stereotypes and biases are like rubbing off on children. And so like just the smallest thing, like even their toys, is affecting gender stereotypes.
All right. Trysten. Oh, we're not done.
Yeah, sorry.
Q&A. Cassidy's got to grill you.
Do you see commercials changing anytime soon to adapt both boys and girls playing with the toys?
Not really. I mean, maybe a little bit. Like, things with, like, Toy Story, there was some on there, too, where, like, but they were both separate commercials. Like, there was one about Jessie, and it was a little girl dressed up as Jessie and playing with the doll, and then there was one about Woody and Buzz Lightyear, and it was just boys who were playing with the action figures. And so, like, if they did them together, possibly, but there's still that separation. So, like, I mean, even though, like, Disney seems to be evolving in, like, their movies and, like, their storylines and stuff, I don't see, like, the commercials really changing, because I don't think that they're ever really going to put a boy in a dress in a commercial, even if you wanted to be in one, just because it's not a social norm.
So, here's hypothetical. Disney has just hired you, paying you lots and lots and lots of money. Big corporate title and everything.
I'll do whatever they ask me to then.
Your job is to work with their marketing to try to make their products, their boy products, more acceptable to girls, and their girl products more acceptable to boys. Do you have any ideas for how you might go about doing that?
I think a lot of it starts with, like, color first. Like, that's one of the first things you notice about a toy is, like, the colors. And, a lot of boys, even if it's an action figure that they typically play with, if you painted it bright pink, they're probably not going to play with it anymore. So, like, if they have those, like, gender stereotypes in their heads. So I just think a lot of it starts with color, and there's several things that can be done, but, like, starting to, like, mix those colors and have, like, some of it like dominant, some of it more pastel. Because, like, in that study, 91.2% of the color or of the toys that were labeled for boys were dominant colors, and 51.3% were pastel colors for girls. And then for gender neutral, they were still 90.1% colored for boys. Like, and so I just think a lot of it starts with color, and then, like, the style of it too. Like, maybe making boys' toys, like, look less harsh sometimes. Like, the action figures and things like that look less, like, I'm trying to think of the right word, intimidating maybe. And then, like, maybe with girls' toys, make them look a little less soft.
Right. All right. Cool.
Oh,
Thank you.
Lindy.
Oh, sorry, Lindy. Go ahead.
Do you think it would be more effective to make gender-neutral toys like more boy colors or more girl colors?
I feel like with gender-neutral toys, it needs to be, like, just that. Like, it at least needs to be even. Because, like I said, 90.1% of them were colored and appealed more to boys. So, like, if you're going to call them gender-neutral, I feel like they should follow that rule. Like, start mixing and integrating, especially with, like, educational toys and, like, musical toys and things like that. Like, they don't always need to be colored for a boy. Like, just because he has, like, a fake guitar doesn't mean it needs to be black or red or something, because, like, if a girl wants that, like, maybe she wants it to be a different color. So I just think that if it's going to be gender neutral, it needs to be more integrated and not just appeal to boys.
Just make everything gray.
Yes. Black, white, and gray.
All right. Thanks, Trysten. All right. That's all the speeches for today, I believe.